Scout is a platform designed to enhance customer engagement through personalized outreach and leveraging AI to facilitate meaningful conversations and connections. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the founder of Scout, Drew Fabrikant, the founder of Scout. So, their approach has been helping businesses officially for a year to connect with their target audiences through the utilization of artificial intelligence and safe cold outreach. Drew, thanks for joining me today and sharing a bit about Scout and diving into the platform. Can you share a bit about the origin story and what inspired you to create Scout?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I think the origin story is, honestly, I was just really lazy. I had a friend who was in the market for a home in New York City, and he came to me and he said, "Drew, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I can't seem to find it on the market." It was like a crazy time. He was getting outbid. So I think after the second time he got outbid, he was like, "Look, this is what I want. Can't you just like find this off market, reach out to every single person who owns it and see if they'd be, willing to entertain an offer?" And I said, "Sam, if I was like really diligent and I, was willing to do this for you, I definitely could. But I'm just not going to. I don't have that kind of time." But the concept kind of stayed with me, and I was like, well, I think that technology can probably do this. And I got really curious about it and I started digging, and I put together a team of data scientists, and we grabbed all of the data in the entire area. So this was like Brooklyn, Williamsburg at the time. It was like, I don't know, 10,000 different addresses, and maybe like 3,000 were, vaguely going to hit what he was looking for. And I was probably able to grab like three or 400 email addresses of people at the time, and phone numbers, and just like digging on white pages. And I don't know, we put in like 20 hours of work. Um, but after doing all of that, I sent outreach to, I don't know, hundreds of homeowners. And within about a week and a half, we were in contract on a $1.6 million deal for him. And he was able to find exactly what he wanted. And he was like, "This is amazing. Can't you just like continue to do this forever?" And I guess that kind of stuck, and we did.
Yeah, well, okay, so you spent 20 hours on that one deal that's obviously not scalable. So then how did you figure out a model that then allowed you to create Scout?
Yeah, I think 20 hours with like data scientists and a couple $1,000, and we were like, this is absolutely not scalable. But economies of scale and building out software around it really enabled us to start to not just do this for ourselves, but for other people, and then finally to build a platform around it. So what we were able to do is find a bunch of people who have access to large data sets, and we were able to acquire those. So 350 million consumers nationwide with their contact info, 148 million properties, 200 data points, 7 million ish real estate transactions per year. What we're now able to do, and certainly with the assist of AI, is like grab all of this demographic data and this information and manage these big data sets so that we can offer all of this to our customers at a fraction of the cost of what it would, cost us or them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so can you give us an overview of what Scout is today and what agents primarily are using it for?
Yeah, so it's essentially a massive data platform. And again, like 350 million consumers, but what makes it really helpful to our consumers who are the agents or brokers or even, prop tech companies, we create ICPs, so we'll help them to define who they're looking for. So let's say 15,000 people live in a zip code. You can't reach out to all 15,000. It's just impossible. What we need to do is kind of boil that down to what I would call like the magic 7%. That's typically how many will turn over in one year. So how do we identify them? Right. So we've built frameworks, we've built models, predictive modeling, and propensity models to identify who we think those people are going to be, either based off of how long they've been living there or like LTV, equity, presence of senior or children in household, age, demographic information. Um, and then we can take all that information. We have an AI copywriter and templates that mail merge everything together and automate the outreach through entire email management. So we kind of had to rebuild email from the ground up to make sure that we can hit the inbox. It's just kind of highly targeted, hit the right person with the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, and artificial intelligence, especially today, can be like used as a buzzword. So can you explain a little bit more of like how officially is this artificial intelligence, and is it like self-learning, or can you explain little bit more about this artificial intelligence model that you're using?
Yeah, so some of it's machine learning, some of it's AI. It really depends what you're using it for. And a lot of the AI gets used in the background in the frameworks of like building your propensity models. So let's say, 7% are going to turn over. You need to build a pretty complex algorithm to crunch a ton of numbers. You then need to do regression analysis. You need to determine, how accurate is this model? Is it accurate over just this cross section, this cohort, or is it going to be different in a secondary market or a tertiary market? So like we had to go back. We have data scientists that are much smarter than I am, but they were able to analyze of the last 100,000 homes sold in the United States of America. Like our likely mover predictive model was able to get like 70% of them and correctly identify. But they're constantly using AI to improve those models. The second part is the actual copy. We're not copywriters, right? That's not our job. And even harder, like when you're talking on the phone versus you're writing an email to somebody further down the funnel versus like this is the first touch cold outreach, there's a different framework for all of that. So we have to build those frameworks and we need to train the AI how to use it. And then the AI needs to take the data that we're feeding it and then contextualize it and put it in the right kind of message so that somebody wants to engage with it. So a lot of content creation as well. And those are the two primary ways that we're using AI right now.
So you have a lot of data. You're managing a
Yes.
lot of data of homeowners and like lots of information to manage propensity scores. But like, okay, let's go to the basics of like accuracy. You mentioned accuracy.
Yeah.
How confident are you on the accuracy of just the basics of, yes, this is the right name, matching the right address, matching the right email?
Man, that is so hard. um, so we're built for email, right? And there's a lot of platforms out there that are just built, for skip tracing, and they have phone numbers and they have emails. We try to take it a step further, and we'll do address resolution or entity resolution. We have people whose jobs it is just to match up like first name to last name. Right? Everybody's got nicknames, or they entered their information with like periods or extra spaces. So we're doing a lot of what's called entity resolution, just like normalizing that data and then putting it all together and then making sure that it's being able to be used for a specific purpose. Just because you have somebody's email doesn't mean it's accurate. Sometimes you can go out 5 emails deep. So which one is the right one? And also, what's really important is you have to validate that these emails will actually go through. So we will like send a ping to a address email validation tool in between to make sure that you're not getting where you're getting minimalized bounce backs, right? Like 98.5% deliverability.
Yeah, and on that topic of bounce backs, as part of the conversation we had before this interview, can you share a little bit about the outreach efforts that you do and the strategy that you do for, I think you might do either like a warm up method, or maybe you just never go above a certain number, but how do you ensure that because the numbers you showed me were incredible. I was kind of skeptical as
Yeah.
you saw in our initial communication, then after the fact. How do you ensure that you have high email deliverability, that you maintain that throughout with this outreach method?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways to manage email infrastructure, and it's both an art and a science. And I know that you have amazing people in your community, like Alex, right, at the SH company, uh, who can manage largely at scale. Well, for the individual sender, they're a little bit different. They're maybe not trying to hit 50,000 people at a time, or they have to send a million emails a day. For those people, you can basically fly stealth if number one, you have to send the right message to the right person at the right time. That is key. And if you are doing that, you, for the most part, will not have deliverability issues. So we have to, number one, hyper target who you're reaching out to, make it highly relevant for that person, and then comply with email infrastructure. So if you're sending through Gmail or Outlook, you never want to send more than 70 outbounds per day cold. Unofficially, I think you can send up to 500. Through the interface, you can send 200. I think 100 is kind of the number where they start to look at you and say, well, who's sending this? What's their reputation? They look at, who's the sender? What's their domain? What are they saying? And how are they engaging with the emails? So we try to get all of that right? And that's like table stakes, but keeping volume really low and batching it and throttling it and randomizing it over 30 days as opposed to like, all in 1 day or 2 days or, batching over like every 60 minutes is really going to help you. So consistency. And that's half of the answer. then
Yeah.
then there's a much more involved strategy for sending at high volume, which is kind of above my pay grade and why we have our email consultants on staff to handle.
Yeah. So let's say you have someone who has an established business, like they're not starting from scratch, just trying to find somebody somewhere to work with. They already have like a database that they're nurturing. Let's say there's someone like us, our business, they're sending maybe 200 to 300 emails a day already. It's a
Yeah.
combination of drip campaigns they're already sending to people they're nurturing, combination of like manual emails they're sending back and forth to clients they're working with.
Yep.
Maybe every now and then that send volume is more than that, like maybe upwards to 700 emails a day, a
Yep.
thousand because they send a newsletter. In that instance, are you still sending the emails from their personal domain, or are you like setting up like some other separate uh, domain?
Yeah, so at that point, you're probably already past what's called like IMAP. So you're not even sending through Gmail or Microsoft anymore. You're sending through an ESP, an email service provider, and that's going to be like a SendGrid or a SendSpark, or maybe it's Spark Post, or really one of the other ones, Postmark. Uh, at that point, it's a totally different ballgame, right? Then there's reputation management. Then you have to create subdomains. You need to configure your DNS settings. There's like so many acronyms, it becomes, alphabet soup. But it really all begins with sending something that's relevant to the right person at the right time. So often we get lost in the nitty gritty of like the actual infrastructure that we forget this is a marketing exercise. And yes, there's a technical component, but you just have to continue to provide value day after day after day that is relevant to the person.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we do. We had to set up send and grid because of our send volume, even though we're not even doing cold outreach at this point. So speaking of relevancy and sending marketing that's relevant to the person, I would love to see for the visual people watching this, which is probably majority of people, would you be open to sharing some examples of the type of outreach that you are sending and like why it's being sent and the types of audiences that it's being sent to?
Yeah, of course. And where most people start is with a farm area, right? They always have a general, location that they're looking for. So they'll go over to a map, and that's kind of the first place that we started with our platform was culling this data set. So I don't know, maybe you want to give me a zip code or I'll just use my own right now. We have all of these different segments, likely movers, out of state owners, investors, cash buyers, and we can kind of build anything here because of the availability of the data that we have. But let's just calculate the number here, and it's 556. What we're able to do is take these 556, or for an individual agent, they're not going to take 556 at the time. We'll suggest they start with 350. So they'll add these contacts. The beautiful thing is they can subscribe and it'll continue to renew until we've exhausted every single one of these people. So let's say we were just going for all of the neighbors here. That would be something closer like 2,700. So really like a set it and forget it. They'll get all of this information in the contact. So email, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone, mobile, do not call, bedroom estimated value. We can really pull in anything here. We have about 40,000 different APIs that we pipe into. And then we just add those to the segments. So we make it really, really simple. Most agents will run one of three campaigns. I say there's like three types of real estate agents. There's agents who work with buyers, agents who work with sellers, and agents who want to work with buyers or sellers. For the first two, we can really, really help them. For the third, we can as well. But number one statistic, when a home sells on a block, of the 20 closest neighbors, three will consider selling within the next 3 weeks. We want to get a just sold campaign to those people. For somebody who's working with a buyer, no greater way to get in touch with a homeowner than to tell them that you have a customer or you have a buyer for their home. So the campaigns that really win here, like the I have buyers campaigns, and these are writing themselves and they're already formatted to all of the data, right? These use like our 5S framework for cold outreach, which is at this point it's a formula to get engagement, and it uses a lot of psychology and social proof to get in front of the end consumer to drive higher response rates. So let's say we just took those, 500 people, we pulled data on them, we added them to this campaign. Big fallacy is like, I'm going to send this email and I'm going to get a deal from it. I think as every marketer knows, you need 5 to 7 touches. Uh, so that's why we built, up to 5 touches in the follow up, right? Gentle ones. Hey, just making sure this didn't slip through the cracks. We can then create another message. We can create another message off the back. It waits. And we can change all of this with AI, right? We can say, hey, let's make this shorter, longer, change the tone. We can give it like a direct prompt. I always joke, let's like make it rhyme with cats, or like, you know, make this rhyme with dog. We'll try that one today. Like a loyal dog. I don't know if that really hits. I don't trust AI completely at this point, but but you can kind of get the picture here. And we've got 50 plus templates specifically for residential real estate agents that they can use, or you can just start off completely blank and build your own, get creative around it.
Very nice. So you said it sends about 5 to 7 emails, and then what happens when someone responds? Does it stop and then
Yeah,
what?
the beauty of this is that first in the cadence, it can wait, 7 days and then send to anyone who didn't reply. So let's say you load 350 people in. You can't hit 350 in a day, right? We have email limits that say, no, you can't do that. So the first thing that our system does is it spreads those out over a 30-day span, but we really only like sending Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we'll put some guardrails there. So we're now batching these things out, but you've got a two-touch campaign. All right. So now you have 700 emails to send. Maybe you're only sending 12 a day for the first, call it 7 days. And then day seven, we're hitting 24. And then it's 24 for the rest of the time. And we've built this so, it looks and feels like a human is sending it. It doesn't go out at the same time. It randomizes the time. It doesn't leave like, 7 seconds between email one and two. Um, so a lot of that, call it email tooling, is already taken care of.
And so let's say someone says, okay, yeah, I want to target these likely to move people in the zip code, but then 6 months later, that likely to move list is going to change. Does someone need to then go in and go back to the map and go back to that list and select likely to moves again? And is there overlap or risk of emailing the same people again? Or how does that work?
You have a lot of great questions today. So these are questions we actually get asked a lot and something we built for. So first, when we decide that we are going to start on a list, let's say there's 556 and I decide I only want 50 from this area. but I want to subscribe to this list. What that's going to do is ensure that a new 50 come every single month from this list. And the new 50 are going to be the people who match that criteria next month, the month after, and maybe it's a year after that. So because the algorithm is constantly taking into account new data points, we're cycling people in and out of like this segment. If we were to do something, simpler, like closest to an address, and I just did like, 337 Chestnut Street, um, those properties aren't going to change much. So, it's not like you'll get a new batch in 6 months. It's not like the house picked up and moved somewhere else. But also in terms of making sure that these people don't get hit again. We have a 3 month back off for every single contact in here. So when you come in, that contact will not be pulled again for another account for a minimum of 3 months.
Got it. Okay, so let's say like the best thing happens and the agent gets a ton of positive responses and books a lot of appointments, and then the agent can't keep up. Is there a way to tell Scout, pause for a second, like I need to hold on, please stop? Or is it like too late? It's already running and you
Yeah,
can't tell it to
I
stop.
mean campaign management. I think at that point you just say, "Hey, Elena, help me. I need some more automation in my life. Like, fix all of my CRM and my marketing." But all of this you can kind of drag back and forth, and it makes it super simple to pause these kind of things. I'll give you an example. We're working with a guy in he's in Oxnard, California, and he's like the poster child for success right now. We turned on a campaign. Within the first day, he had a listing appointment. Friday rolls around, he's got another listing appointment. You know, call it 25 days later, he's got his third and fourth, and he's got like $12 million in listing appointments in the first month. He's doubling down, right? He's not slowing. He sees the promise. He's like, I'm gonna go get another agent, or I'm gonna refer these things out. But like, I think for great agents, just double down.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that we talked about during our first conversation. Is there's really no overlap at all with what your company does and our company does. You're above what we do with the outreach to people that an agent has no connection or relationship with, but then once someone has responded to the email, whether they're ready or not, then at that point the agent decides what to do with it, either respond to the email or schedule a call and then add that person to the CRM, put them in the appropriate stage and label the person with the correct client type, and then initiate our automations, put them in which then puts them in the smart list, and then our CRM setup takes over. So it's sort of like a perfect um, relationship where a relationship there between the two platforms essentially.
Yeah, we are absolutely not a CRM. We are not trying to be an AI agent that will continue conversations for the lifetime of. I would analogize us more to like the wingman at the bar who says, this is, I'm going to help you with the first outreach, and then you take it from there. So we bounce everybody out who gets a reply. We are can spam compliant, so one touch unsubscribe. We make sure that for the most part, if you have somebody who's in your database already, there are great ways, just in terms of email management, to put them through an SMTP and not have to use your live bullets, call them, your 70 a day on the people you already know, like and trust, or know, like and trust you. This is really an amazing initial outreach tool.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, it's very timely what you just said. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a presentation. The title is literally AI is not going to save you. Like, there are amazing tools like yours. There's like AI texting, there's AI voice, where the goal of these tools is to get a hand raiser. And then maybe it'll even do some back and forth, but it's ultimately going to be up to you to then carry on the conversation and to develop that relationship and to close the deal. And so That's what's awesome about these tools, like yours with Scout, is to get that initial hand raised from the person, and uh, then it's up to the agent to
Yeah, I mean,
carry on.
let's just go through this really quickly. If you're interested in more about pricing, buyer demand, or what's going on in the market in general, I'd be happy to connect. You are the only person as an agent who has that information. Right? That is what is unique to you. That is your unique selling proposition. Um, yeah, I think AI at this point should almost be trained to defer to the agent. And that's why we make sure that we're not trying to displace anybody or disrupt anything. We're just, helping you get to more people who you should be in front of.
Yeah, yeah, I think there's a lot of unnecessary fear about AI replacing us, but I think it should be used to enhance us and bring more people to us rather than being worried that's going to replace us. It'll help
Absolutely.
us scale and get more business. Are there any sort of upcoming features or enhancements that we can look forward to with when it comes to Scout?
Oh, we have so many. We're constantly adding new data and new data points and new triggers for outreach, like almost on a daily basis. One of the most exciting, the ink is not dry yet, but I will tease this. We now have triggers, in addition to, call them the 5Ds. We're able to monitor tens of thousands of websites and browsing patterns around the internet and actually almost in real time identify people who are filling out like mortgage applications or have spent a significant amount of time on a website like Zillow or Realtor or Redfin. So our targeting is getting much, much, much better. And I'm hoping that that's something that we'll be able to offer very soon, in addition to the information that we're able to gather about somebody and call it public or private data.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And then what kind of support does a customer get when they sign up with Scout?
the best. We have an entire help center where we've put in minute long videos that demonstrate everything about the platform. We have one-on-one support with live client service, which I think is wild for platforms to be offering these days. We have a AI bot that has ingested our entire help center and can give you, real time answers. And then we also have a Facebook community. So there are other people who are using this around the nation, and they're happy to kind of share. We do probably about a webinar a month, and sometimes we'll have customers that have had success just go through and share things that have helped them. So we definitely want to make sure that this is community driven.
Yeah, that's great. Final question for you, Drew. If anyone wanted to learn more about Scout or do a demo or sign up, where should they go?
TrustScout.com. You can go to TrustScout.com. We have some great resources. We're always happy to do a demo. We can do we actually do a free audit. So we'll walk through somebody's either current messaging or even sometimes their email setup if they're a high volume sender. We'll walk them through things like our 5S framework, and help them choose a email template that would be right for them, which will drive the highest engagement. So feel free to schedule that audit, schedule a demo. I'd love to work with you.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you sharing a deep dive into the platform, and I think a lot of people will find that very helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.